Hello, nerds. Hi, nerds. It is Super Bowl Sunday. I'm here at home, not Super Bowling. I'm gonna build some Legos for the next hour or so. Still working on the Lion Knight Castle. Some other incomparable nerds may or may not visit, but it may just be me building Legos, kind of quiet, meditatively. Robbie Rutherford, howdy. Let me know if you can't hear the audio or if there are issues with video or anything like that. I'm just gonna rearrange some windows on my computer real fast. Oh, I see the ever-present James Thompson finding his way in as he is wont to do.
Yeah, it just took me a little technical issue there, but
It's okay. We're all getting older.
every day.
That's how it works. How's it going?
Eh.
That good?
Yeah, it was like, do you want the real answer, or do you want the answer that I'm prepared to say on a video stream?
You know, that's how are you doing is it's a challenging question.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think you get probably you can beat most of us in the challenging times that we live in.
Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, I am currently unemployed. Got laid off last month, so that's
I believe we say between jobs.
Between jobs, is that what we say? I don't know. So it's been not a great month, but lots more time for everything else except that you spend all your time looking for jobs. Spend lots of times just scrolling through LinkedIn like it's my job. It's great. So yeah, it's been an experience, but I have not worked on my castle for a while. I feel like there's the tricky thing where I kind of like dedicated, especially the castle was a gift, and I was like, oh well, I will share this castle with others by building it on a live stream, but then that means that like I have to like move stuff around, and I can't just be like, oh, now's a great time to move to work on a castle. It has to be like I have to plan to work on a castle, so yeah.
Well, I was looking, and thankfully all the mess that is in my office, because we had a few weeks ago, it was my birthday, my 50th birthday, in fact.
Was it even a few weeks ago?
I what is this? This is 12th of February. It was the 25th of January.
Oh, okay. In my head, it was like last week. Oh,
I mean, time works differently.
What is time? Yeah.
And so because it was my 50th, I decided that hang the global pandemic, I would invite a select group of people into my domicile. And this is having lived in filth for 3 years.
Yep.
Everything that was surplus to a social engagement needed to be taken and shoved into this room. And thankfully, all of it is below the level of the camera.
That's nice. So it's just kind of a trash compactor level of debris or debris on the floor.
Yeah. Complete with things brushing against my leg.
Oh, nice.
But yes, I mean, I don't know how we're nearly halfway through February already.
Is that accurate? I don't like that. Don't
I mean,
like that one bit.
it's the 12th of February
Oh
and
no.
there's 28 days. So
Oh no. I wasted everything.
no, you need time to recharge and
That
let us
implies I was charged. So
charged with crimes, perhaps.
mm.
But well, given that it was not that long ago that you were having parts of your body removed,
That's true.
I
Thanks for that
feel
reminder.
well, that's what I'm here is to
Yeah.
bring up trauma.
Yep.
That's my role in this stream. Yes, so I think that these streams will just be increasingly just us sighing
just
about
gracefully aging.
without so much grace, I
Mm,
suspect.
mm.
And then just yes. Have you I see you're on bag 6.
I'm on bag 6.
Were you previously on bag 5? Have I missed
Yeah.
any?
No. I forget if you've been here for all of them / everyone, but I think you have. Yeah, nope. I'm moving slowly. I do about, and I, part of it is like I'm not going for a speed record. I like the gradual Lego build. I think frequently, even when I was not streaming Legos, I would frequently be watching TV or listening to a podcast, and I like that. I know multitasking is not really a thing that you can actually do, but I enjoy the kind of like the experience of doing 2 things at once, even if I know it would be more efficient to do one thing well versus 2 things. Kind of, I enjoy the kind of two things at once. It's keeps my brain distracted. There was a time in my life where I used to play StarCraft obsessively, and the first 10 minutes of every StarCraft game is extremely kind of rote. If you have a strategy and know what you're doing, you just do it over and over again. And there was a period in my life, I feel shame or pride about this period? I'm not sure. But I would play Tetris during the first 10 minutes of StarCraft while also playing StarCraft. Because it's like nothing would happen in the first 10 minutes that would be surprising. So I could be multitasking playing Tetris while StarCrafting. I don't know if this is recommended. This may, I don't know if there's
I feel this is something that should go on your resume, because I think if I attempted to do that, I would fail very badly at both the Tetris and the StarCraft.
I don't think I would compensate somebody for their StarCraft and Tetris ability. I think I would be like, you should be doing one of these things.
We just write that up as problem solving, resource management, bricklaying,
something. Yeah. So James, it is in America. It's Super Bowl Sunday.
I gather.
Yeah.
I only know one of the teams that is playing because Lex Friedman won't shut up about it.
Yes, that's yeah, that's accurate.
I love you, Lex.
His beloved Philadelphia Eagles are one of the teams.
But I know nothing about the other people, and I don't even know who. Is it Rihanna who's doing the halftime?
I believe
show?
so. Yes.
So I know more about the halftime show than I know about, and possibly about the trailers, which will be shown in the ad breaks.
I think we are now possibly, this great podcasting conversation here at the maximum that you and I know about this. I believe the other team is the Chiefs from Kansas City. So, but that is about it. So.
Well, I think, historically as children, we were probably also building Lego at this point. So
I've been to some Super Bowl parties, I think, as a teen or a college age kid, but I did not really watch the game. So I don't entirely know how football works, and I'm okay. I know enough about other things.
I know how football works, but the proper one, not
take that.
Well, where are we in the castle? I think the last time there was a music room or something was built.
I'm continuing, I guess, just to build up on top of that. Looks like I'm building up these little stairs and the walls that will go there. Trying to think, I don't have I don't have an easy view I can show you of the whole castle, because that's going to be like one side of the castle, and I think this is solidly kind of the middle of the castle. And that castle kind of comes in this interesting configuration where you can kind of either have it as a kind of a keep square shaped structure or as a expanded out wall, I think, and that's where it kind of operates more in playset mode. So I think I have a long way to go in my current rate of 2 bags every hour or so. I think there's probably 30 or 40 bags in this box. So
I
it's
think
gonna keep me busy.
I think the number of bags per month might be the
Mhm.
interesting metric.
Yes. Now, James, as a Scottish person, you were raised in a castle, correct?
Yes,
Mm.
I frequently, had to chase ghosts out of it.
Oh,
All the usual. But there was a castle around two castles. In
I was
fact,
gonna say, how far is the nearest castle
it
from you?
depends on your definition of castle,
Of castle,
which I think
okay.
there is a lot of. To me, a castle, it's got to be defensible. It's got to have a
Mhm.
moat. It's got to have, some strategic advantage to it. And
Mhm.
there is a hotel round the corner from my parents, which, well, I shall not name the hotel
Okay.
because, but anyway, it has the word castle in the name, and it is not a castle.
Not a castle.
It is a small building that's had a sort of medieval times-esque makeover. And
Like
they
maybe
called it
thrown up in like the 70s or 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
nice.
there is another thing which is slightly more castle-y, not that far from where I grew up, which did have secret passages, which I
Mhm.
think is a sort of
Oh,
castle.
that's a high qualifier for a castle, right?
But the nearest castle, I don't want to say it's Edinburgh Castle, because there is, of course, the great Glasgow-Edinburgh rivalry, and I would not admit that
Oh,
Edinburgh had anything better than Glasgow did. But
I
there
was not
is,
aware of this rivalry. So,
it's very much a sort
mhm.
of, if you imagine the sort of East Coast rap versus West Coast
Mm,
rap battles of the 90s, he said,
mhm.
pretending that he is actually hip
Mm.
with such knowledge.
With the hip or the hop, yes.
It's that kind of thing. It's because Edinburgh is the capital nominally of Scotland, but Glasgow's the biggest city.
Mhm.
And so, and the government Holyrood is in Edinburgh. So there is a certain amount of rivalry. I wouldn't say it's mainly sort of Glasgow having a chip on its shoulder, because that would
Gotcha.
be.
So it's a kind of a one-way rivalry, perhaps.
Yes, I think they don't think
Okay.
about us at all.
Yes, yes. There is a, I mean, I guess circling back to sports, but I feel like it goes beyond sports. There's a rivalry between Boston and New York City that I think is much more one-sided than anyone in Boston is usually willing to admit, and that we think about them a lot, and I don't know if they think about us at all. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, of course, Glasgow and Edinburgh will unite against other common foes.
Sure. So, I mean, compared to, say, I imagine London, for example,
Yeah, I
the
mean,
two
like,
come together, but Manchester.
yeah, I know people in Manchester. I wouldn't say bad things about it. Actually, I know people in London too. So, but yeah, it's it's all very weird, and also these things are stoked by political parties for their own
Sure.
good.
I always enjoy the like intense minor provincial rivalries especially between things I was unaware of. I always find kind of delightful. I remember going to uh some kind of gathering in Nebraska, and it was up on like a rooftop looking over the river in near Omaha, and from there you could see into Iowa, the next state, and people were just like going on and on about how slagging on Iowa, and I was like, I'm looking over there, and I'm looking the other way, and I was like, it looks the same people.
I think it's the places that are the most similar that the
Yeah,
people are cross
yeah,
with the other people.
yeah, and there is kind of I mean, there's a tricky thing where, like, there is an economic disparity there, where the part of Iowa that's like across the river from Omaha, Nebraska, is kind of run down and has trailer parks and things like that. But you see this in lots of places in the United States when there's like a border, especially if there's some kind of river border, and it's like it's the wrong side of the tracks metaphor, where it's like, because there's a huge geographic divide, there's tends to be an economic divide. So there is like a difference between them, but it's like, the idea that there's any cultural difference between the two places that are within sight of each other is, to me a little quaint. But you didn't hear that. If anyone from
Yeah.
Iowa is listening, you're great. So um, yeah.
I mean, even within Glasgow, there are each different area has its own specific
neighborhood beefs.
yes.
Mhm.
And we will not get into the football of the British kind, because most of the beefs between the football clubs in here also fall along religious sectarian lines.
Oh wow, I had no idea.
And
Yeah.
well, there are certain colors that you just don't particularly want to be wearing in certain parts of the city.
Mm.
But I pay little attention to such things. But yes, I'm now peering at your.
Working on these. It looks like these. I'm wondering if this is the top of a wall, because it's got little smooth crenellation dealies there.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like there's going to be at least able to go up those stairs and dump oil on people. But
classic castling.
Yes. But I don't know if this is just going to be like a little balcony bit.
It could just be, and then it could keep going. More and more castle. Have you built any Lego sets recently? Did you get the did we talk about this already? I forget. You were gonna get or thinking about getting the kind of equivalent space set that's very big and fancy?
I did get the big space set, and it is.
I assume you've assembled it.
That is assembled, and I have a row of 5 classic spaceships of varying eras. All the classic gray, blue, and yellow ships.
So now your nostalgia is complete and you don't have to do anything else.
Well, you see, I'm annoyed because like last month or whatever, the reward for spending lots of money at Lego
was a extra like a Blacktron thing.
Was a Blacktron set, which is after my time.
So that is not part of classic space. I think I had some Blacktron sets. I don't think I actually had. I'm not sure if I had any classic sets. I think my older brother might have had some classic Lego space sets. The
definition of classic space that I will is the hill that I will die on is visors versus no visors.
Got it.
And the classic space stuff, no visors. But Blacktron was way after my time, so I do not appreciate them pandering to the nostalgia of people
of anyone else.
Yes. It should only be this very narrow window, which is nostalgia for me.
So you're embracing 50 gracefully, is what I'm hearing here.
Yes, very, very much so. And I would like to be pandered to for the rest of my days. But
it did look like a pretty cool set.
Yeah. Visors. I did get, if I can reach behind me, this is not Lego, but I have Kobold, which
a Kobold. Oh, a very bright red Kobold too.
Yeah, well, it's Wizard. I believe his name is Rory.
Did he come with the name, or did you name him?
No, he came with the name, and he comes with a little.
Does he come with a backstory?
He does. He does have a backstory. I love learning, which of course is a very telephone party kill attitude. I love learning and going on adventures. As a kobold, I know I have friends I can rely on when I run into difficulties. And as a wizard, I'm confident I can think my way out of any sort of danger.
Oh, wow. I like it.
And came with a variety of accessories, including a magic cape, which is a cape of learning that can store any spell that hits it, so I can study and learn to cast it later in the day.
Wow.
This was
So
a
you could,
Kickstarter.
I was gonna say you could create this character in a Total Party Kill campaign, but then it might be really sad if they died. So
Yes. I don't know. It has some resemblance to how I imagine Meepo looks.
yes, yeah. Meepo being our kobold friend from Total Party Kill, the Adventurers Pyramid Adventures. They befriend they go into a dungeon where there are goblins and kobolds kind of at war with each other. And I forget, your group did a lot of things. You told a lot of stories to a lot of people, but I think you were generally on the kobold side.
Yeah, I think we were generally on the kobold side, apart from a bit of murder.
Yeah,
but
there was some murder. So
it
Dungeons
was
and Dragons. What are you gonna do?
it was
Um,
something of a misunderstanding.
yes.
That's it.
Yeah. These things happen.
But yeah, that was a Kickstarter that I backed, like many of these things, a million years ago, and then
Mhm.
random thing turns up in the post, and you go, "Oh, yes,
What is
that
that?
is a
Yeah.
that is a thing." I like it. I like these kind of things because I feel it is past James buying presents for future James, and it's often a surprise, and I have often completely forgotten about the things that I have backed. Like I think I have yet another version of Paranoia, the role-playing game
Mhm.
that we have talked about before, which is turning up sometime. And
I was excited to see that the next Dragon Friends season is going to be them playing Paranoia, which I only knew about, but from our previous conversation. So,
well, I will be listening to that, and that'll be the closest I ever get to playing Paranoia.
do you think it's impossible that you'll ever play Paranoia?
I don't know if it's impossible, but I mean, I think it would require me actually DMing it for it to
Mm,
happen here.
a dangerous step, let me tell you.
Yes, I've heard that once you start doing that, you're kind of like,
When do you get to stop? Yeah.
never is apparently the answer.
Mhm.
How are you feeling about your return, your triumphant return?
My triumphant return, pretty good. We played Curse of Strahd last week. It was good to be back. They are getting pretty close. They are certainly in kind of the end game final stages of that adventure, which is both exciting, but also, it's always kind of sad when you have a really long adventure and you get toward the end and it's like, there's almost that do you want it to end kind of thing. The Curse of Strahd adventure is one of my, I feel like I say everything's my favorite, but it is a published D&D adventure that I particularly enjoy. I think I have run it for 3 or 4 groups now, and different groups have resonated with it different ways. I ran it, I think, for at least one group where it was like their first D&D, and that was not a great experience for them, in part because it's, you know, Curse of Strahd is such a specific environment, and it has these horror elements to it that if you were looking for, Dungeons and Dragons, Lord of the Rings, high fantasy adventures, I think it's not going to fulfill that for you. Um, it is one of those adventures that it's like you're in the setting of Barovia, which is this kind of Eastern European kind of, Dracula, Frankenstein horror movie setting, and everything is awful. And you go to these little towns, and every little town is full of like people that are experiencing some horrible, depressing story, and that can weigh on you a little bit depending on what what kind of life you're living. But it is, I would say, it's a well written adventure. Strad von Zarovich, I think, is a pretty great D&D villain, and he is this, he's a vampire. He's got a kind of tragic story of how he became a vampire, and now he does horrible things and he rules over land, and he is it's a story where he pops up multiple times, so the adventurers have encountered him several times. They're now kind of, I think they're out to get him now. They've acquired their magical items and learned things, and now it's like, okay, now it's time to make this happen, whereas before he was this kind of force of nature that was scary and intimidating. So it's a good adventure. I was glad to be back. It's they're in Ravenloft, which is this giant, it's Strahd's giant castle. And it is one of those things where it's like it's this huge expansive space, and you never know where the players are going to go. So you can kind of prepare, but it also kind of it's like they're going to do what they're going to do, and you know, any preparation I do may go out the window based on choices they make about what they want to do. Given how big the castle is and how many things there are, and you know, they might find their way into combat, or no, they might find their way into like, oh, this is this place over here where there's some weird NPC that they're going to interact with. So yeah. Um,
I've never done the sort of the long running adventure. I've had characters that have stayed around for a
Yeah,
long
because
time.
you did Adventures Pyramid with our a bunch of our UK friends, and you did a bunch of the mini adventures, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's
Um,
mostly the White Sparrow stuff, and
yep,
then the whatever the book themed group,
Candlekeep, yeah.
Candlekeep,
Hmm.
which is still going. We still
Yep.
have. Is it one more of that?
Oh,
That's
there's many more.
all right.
That goes to level 17, and I think you're on like level like
6 or
7.
7.
You're not
Yeah.
halfway through that book even. So that book go it's a question there of how long do people want to play that book? Um,
Well, sometime in like 2025, when all of those hit
mhm,
the main podcast feed.
mm.
Yeah. Um, but so I haven't done the kind of like, I guess I've built up characters
Mhm,
that have had some sort of character development,
mhm,
but not in one setting with one kind of
mhm.
uh, big overarching goal.
Yeah, it's I like both things. Hence the number of things I've done that are different in different ways. I think sometimes it's fun to have a short thing that like you accomplish something and you do the thing and then you go on to the next thing. And I like the mini adventure that we ran. These are the White Sparrow adventures for Total Party Kill, because it's like people come back. Uh, but I guess I like doing something short where you get to accomplish something and you go on to the next thing. It can be hard to keep people focused with a really long adventure. Curse of Strahd is 10 levels, though I kind of skipped ahead a little bit. They started at like level 5 instead of level 3, but that's very long. you know.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
think like also the thing with that is you can get in new people and they can do it for
Hmm.
a little bit and then they can decide, no, I never want to do that ever
Yeah.
again.
Yeah,
Um,
that was a big goal of the mini adventures was, we brought in lots of new people, which I always think is fun. I think uh you know figuring out how you make D&D fun for new people is an interesting challenge. And people respond to different things in terms of whether some people really like the combat, and some people love building a character, and some people like the role playing. And so I love getting new people in it, especially if they're new people. It helps if it's new people who at least know some of the other people a little bit. It can be I have not done a lot of role playing with people I did not know anything about. I know I have friends who they're into that, and they'll go to a game store and play in an adventure. And I guess those are people who are extroverted or could be pretend to be extroverted for a short period of time, and that is a little bit beyond my skill set.
I was going
So
to say, I
uh,
think the crippling social anxiety would stop
yeah,
me from
yeah.
particularly doing that.
Mm,
Um,
yeah, I've thought about that, in the being currently being unemployed. There are services out there where you can run D&D for people or other role-playing games for people on the internet. Uh, and I have thought about that as like a thing that I could do to make money. I don't I don't think I would like that. You know, just because I think it's a thing I like to do for my friends. I'm not sure if I want to do it. You
I
know,
think when it becomes quite so transactional, it might.
yeah, it would be weird. And
uh,
especially you have different types of players, and I have friends who are they're rules lawyers, and they'll fight about like, I want to do this thing and I can do this thing. I feel like the idea of doing that with someone who is like you're engaged in some kind of financial transaction with over services would get very kind of weird. And yeah, I don't know if that's for me. um
yeah.
yeah.
Um, I mean, I
If
can.
anyone out there is very wealthy and very foolish, let me know. Maybe we can come to an arrangement. But I don't know. So
I mean, I think the. I don't know. Maybe there is kind of like there might be a a market amongst the listeners and the members and the kind of people who know you and know your style, but yeah, I can see it being difficult from your side of the table.
And there's people who do that kind of stuff and are great at it. I'm trying to think. I think a few times when I was playing D&D very early on, but especially in that, like, I didn't have lots of friends who wanted to play D&D. And I think there were a couple times at a convention or something, I played a one shot, and some of that was like, oh, you got to see a thing that wasn't out yet. And there were people that ran those who would walk up to a table and be like, I am ready to run D&D for 5 strangers, and power to them. Those, most of my experiences with those people are like, they're pretty good at this. I don't think that's me. um, so yeah.
Well, I do think you are good at it, but I mean, I think it's a bit like, those kind of people who go to parties and talk to folk
Oh gosh, I don't want to do that.
that they don't know.
ah. James,
And
this is supposed to be a safe place.
I know. Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm clear. I'm very much also firmly in camp. Let's talk to my friends and maybe one new person, but only if they don't seem threatening.
Yeah.
I have. So just in the since we're talking D&D related topics, I have started watching the Critical Role Amazon animated show.
Yes, Vox Machina. I have watched not all of it, because there's some that just came out this week.
Yeah,
most of it.
I've seen all of the first season and some of the second season, and I have listened to absolutely none of the Critical Role actual podcasts. And I think that must be the most intimidating when you are playing D&D with professional actors.
Yeah, I will say there was one group of people who were new to D&D who I think they were fans of Critical Role or something else, and I think they thought that was what they were going to be doing, but in a way where they, not going to be contributing to it, but just at the table with Critical Role, as it were. And I think they were a little disappointed. Yeah, it's a pretty enjoyable show. I think it has very much encapsulated kind of the nature of D&D and how silly D&D can be. They are rather on the profane side. It's not a show for kids, and it's got some pretty graphic depictions of violence as well. So it's doing multiple not for kid axes there, but it's I like it. I think it incorporates the wackiness of D&D that tends to be omnipresent in a way that I enjoy. So
I ended up buying. There was a collection of graphic novels of the origins of the characters and things, and it was also sort of quite entertaining. So I find it strange that to become a fan of this property without actually having experienced the original in any form. But
I mean, they're very talented, and I don't know. I appreciate the show has some rather impressive kind of guest stars drop by. It's like, how did they get that person? And either they're also fans of Critical Role, or maybe their kids are, or something, or they're just. I've enjoyed it. I have finished bag 6, and I am heading on to bag 7.
Yes, because I was listening and I was like, that sounds a bit like David Tennant, and indeed it was.
It is. It is David Tennant. Season 2 has Henry Winkler in it, and I was like, how did you get Henry Winkler? Yeah, I don't know. Good for them.
Yes, I picked up on the voice of I'm trying to remember. He was Broyles in Fringe.
Yes. I'm Cedric. No.
No.
I also know him from The Wire. I am blanking entirely right now. I'm really bad at this game. Dan Morin's really good at this game.
Lance Reddick.
There you go. You're looking up while I build.
I have a talent for voices, well, not for making them, but for listening to other people's voices and saying, "Oh, that's so and so," which I think is probably an annoying thing if you live with me, but
but I don't.
Not yet.
It's a threat.
It did come out more as a threat than as a happy invitation. But yeah, so I don't know, like that, between that and kind of similar, there's a Dragon Age, which is the
I have
video game.
started watching that also. I have never actually played any Dragon Age. My partner has, so they're filling me in on all the, oh, this is what that means. That's what that means. I have to say I appreciate it just as a, it's a fantasy animated series. It's reasonably good. I'm trying to think. We watched a bunch of those kinds of things. There's a Dota Netflix animated series that is,
Yes.
okay. Maybe even a little better than okay. I think we went down that rabbit hole starting with the you must have seen this, James, the Arcane animated series.
I haven't actually. I heard
really, it's very good, and
things.
I've never played the game, but it's a very good animated series.
Basically, we are just watching all these property based on things that we have no knowledge of.
Yep.
And no, I feel like I like the Vox Machina thing. I mean, it's, I'm not going to say it's high art, but it reminds me of.
I don't think it attempts to be high art. I think it knows what it is. It's
it
got
reminds,
a lot of foul jokes in it. It's
it's the, I don't want to say, did I grow up watching the D&D cartoon in the 80s? I'm not sure what years that was on, because I could have been more grown up than I should have been when I was watching that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's that kind of thing, but obviously more aimed at our older market. D&D cartoon, when was it on? Okay, so the D&D cartoon showed between 1984 and 1985. That was very specific. I thought it went longer than that.
I don't think it did so great.
There was 27 episodes of it in total. But that was, I guess, probably at peak D&D.
I think that was peak
TSR
trying to sell everything and make as much money as they can. I think that was not the most. I think they not. I don't know. Maybe their financial heyday, but also perhaps the start of their downfall.
Yeah, I mean, well, luckily nobody is trying to run D&D into the ground these days.
No one would do anything controversial that would cause people to flip out and riot. It's all smooth sailing.
I will say that D&D movie looks silly and enjoyable.
I'll see it. I've seen several of the other D&D movies, which are awful, which are not good.
One of which worked, at least one of which I think worked. Our friend Todd worked on.
Oh, I'm sorry, Todd.
I think that was his first. Was that his first thing? I don't know. Anyway, I know Todd worked on the first D&D movie.
The first one, I think the first one is the only one that went in theaters. I think the other ones were all direct to whatever at the time. The first one is in that very awkward era of early CGI. I think it's probably things I could look up, but I won't. Maybe like slightly after the Phantom Menace, but we don't have the same budget as the Phantom Menace, and so it's got stuff that's just not good. But when movies were relying a little too heavily on CGI, but hadn't quite figured it out / didn't actually have the money for it. I think famously there's a CGI beholder in it that looks awful. It just looks like a pink angry floating blob.
Yeah, I mean it's 2000, so yeah, you're going to be in that kind of. We are trying to do too much with the CG technology that we have.
And probably we didn't, we're not getting Industrial Light and Magic for this. We're getting.
I think they did get Industrial Light and Magic.
Oh, okay. Sorry, but maybe we only got we didn't give them much time.
I don't actually know, so I'm not going to stake that.
Look,
but
people may have worked very hard on it and done their best, but unfortunately the results were not great. So sorry anyone who worked on it. This appears to be Bag 7 seems to be moving on to building a new building here, which is I assume it's going to snap onto the other building I've already built, which has like a little water wheel on the side. So that's cool.
I mean, I don't think you've reached the heights of your castle. I think there's like
No, I
three
assume
levels.
that's gonna. Yeah, I was a little surprised that this was like, nope, now you're going over here building something different. And I was like, okay, I assume I'll go back to that.
I mean, I think it's like you're building the foundations, and then
Yeah, that's how you build a castle. So
one brick at a time.
I think I interrupted your story that you were telling about something.
I don't know that there was a point that I was going towards. I think I
That's
know.
fine.
No, the point was I was going to say that new movie, it looks silly in a
Yes,
in a well, in a not taking itself seriously way, which I think
Yes.
is where many of these other properties have failed.
and Chris Pine is a very good actor, or a very charming actor, at least. I feel like that's a good person to stick at the front of a D&D movie. So
Yes.
yeah.
And the kind of like, well, let's put Led Zeppelin or whatever it is over the
Yeah.
trailer, it's like, fine, that
Yeah.
works. If it works for Norse gods, it works for
Sure.
D&D.
Yeah, no, I think D&D is ultimately, D&D can be many things. It can be silly, it can be serious, it can be horror, it can be lighthearted. But I think when it takes itself very seriously, it doesn't. I don't know if it works, right? D&D is not Lord of the Rings because it's Lord of the Rings as being told by a bunch of silly people sitting around a table, right? And you can have moments of seriousness and moments of levity, and hopefully the movie will have both of those. But I think you want to, when you think about D&D, you want adventures that are entertaining and do cool stuff. And if anything, the previous Dungeons and Dragons movies took themselves a little too seriously. There's also always that tricky thing of like, what lore do you use? And the D&D movie I saw, I think, did not use any like established lore. It invented its own, fantasy stuff. And it's tricky because not everyone's D&D game is going to be different in terms of what stuff they're using at the table and whatnot. So you got to find what are the parts that are recognizable. And I think some of that is like specific magic spells or creature. There are a set of creatures that are unique to D&D, not dragons, but your owl bears and your beholders and things like that are iconic D&D things, even though lots of D&D is generic fantasy. And so you got to lean into that.
I mean,
yeah.
So long as it's not got like a embedded trademark symbol in the ear of an owl bear or whatever. Just but yeah, and gelatinous cubes and things
iconic.
like that.
Yes. Maybe a mimic. I think
there's all of those are in the trailer.
In the trailer, yeah.
There's an owl bear, a mimic, and
I think there's somebody who turns into an owl bear, and people on the internet were mad because I guess that's not a thing you can do in the mechanics of the game, and it's like whatever. You get to do it in this movie because turning into an owl bear is cool.
They can just change the rules and let you turn into an owl bear.
Yeah,
it's fine.
The rules are written in a book, not in stone. So I've checked.
I think I will happily go along for the ride, and I don't think that I will be saying, "Oh, but at level whatever, they can't do this." And I don't think people are going to be shouting the names of the spells as they cast them.
Depends which showing you go to, I guess.
I mean, in the film, but
okay,
yes, probably in the audience.
Sorry, yeah.
No, I had underestimated American film audiences. This is true.
Never underestimated American.
It's a very different experience being in the cinema in America to being in the cinema here. The whole applauding at the end of a movie is just strange.
Yeah, that doesn't always happen, but it all happens.
It's just a number of times it was like, I've seen something over there and it's like people are like hooting and applauding, and I think that happened once. I think that was for or whatever episode 7 Star Wars movie. I think people did applaud at the end of that, but I think it was, oh my god, they managed to make a movie that wasn't absolutely terrible. So we will applaud
Rejoice.
them for this. Um,
I mean, I will say I think so that doesn't happen at all in Scotland, is what you're telling me.
no, I mean, like, to be fair, I haven't been in a cinema for 3 years.
Sure, but you have significant prior cinema experience that
Yes.
you can report on. I will say, so I think some of that will happen more in some places than others. And if you go, I mean, I feel like there are times where I went to see a movie, say in a college town where I was going to college, and the audience was skewed heavily young, loud people. You are more likely to see that kind of stuff than if you go somewhere else. But and there's also the question of like, does someone who's making a lot of noise get shushed, or is that or is the audience like, no, this is awesome because we're all into this, so
Yeah. I think that
do you remember what one movie you saw in America?
I've seen a number of things in America, and I'm trying to think what. I mean, I saw well, okay, no, that's not America. Nearly made an enormous faux pas, but
Oh no,
I did see Endgame in Canada, in Montreal.
that's you were very close to America at that point.
But I saw a lot of things like Toy Stories and various Star Wars movies. I think I saw The Matrix in the US.
See, I think I remember people cheering for The Matrix. I remember people cheering. I think I saw this literally on a college campus, like possibly in a Friday night movie thing that they do to keep kids from drinking and getting into trouble. I remember people cheering in The Matrix in the very first fight scene where Trinity is like cornered and beats up I forget if it's a security guard or an agent or whatever, but like does like a giant flip off the wall, and like people went nuts for that. Circa 1999.
Yeah, there's sometimes like when the visual effects like take a step up. I mean, I remember went to see the first Jurassic Park, and went into it thinking, oh, this is clearly a movie for children because it was whatever. No, more the rating, like it was PG or whatever. And then there were people being like munched by dinosaurs left, right, and center, and it's like, this is not a movie for children at all.
See, when I saw it, I was a child, so
yes, well, I remember being at a party with some significantly younger people, and the question was going around, it's like, what was the first film you saw in the cinema? And I think somebody said, The Matrix and whatever. And
and you died.
And I died slightly. And I said it was Star Wars, and they were like, do you mean the Phantom Menace? And I'm like, no. Do you mean the special edition reissues of the movies? No, I do not. I mean actual proper Star Wars, when it was called Star Wars. In, I think it was 78 in the UK rather than 77.
I don't remember what the first movie I saw in theaters was. I mean, it was certainly some children's movie, right? But I don't have any and I recall seeing a variety of children's movies in theaters, especially a bunch of animated ones. I recall seeing like The Neverending Story and things like that, but I couldn't tell you which one was first. I definitely made my parents take me to all, or at least several of the early Ninja Turtle movies, which probably weren't great. I don't know. I loved the Ninja Turtles then, so sorry parents.
I know I saw like a bunch of stuff on less than legitimate videotape copies, particularly the first Indiana Jones movie that I saw at somebody's birthday party. And like, we're talking very young birthday party who should definitely not be seeing Indiana Jones. As like an entire room of children are traumatized by melting Nazis.
Oh God. I remember going to somebody's birthday party, and I was in high school, but pretty early in high school. Um, and I remember it was somebody's birthday party and a bunch of people were invited, but it was, like there were still there were parents there. It was supervised. And the kind of like special thing that we got to do was we watched the movie Heat, which was a very weird choice and Heat is a classic crime movie, but it's very long. I remember it being on 2 VHS tapes. And it had been like rented from Blockbuster, but it is slow moving and has lots of like cussing and violence in it. And then, it takes a while until you get to the big shootouts and car chases later. And it just seemed like, first of all, this is not a movie for like 14-year-olds, but also I don't think there might be other movies for 14, not for 14-year-olds that 14 think was like, yeah, this is great. And I don't think it's Heat. So
no, Michael Mann is not really my go-to for
no
14-year-olds.
Yeah.
I know I saw an awful lot of horror films at 14 that I shouldn't have. Things, there was 18 rated, and I had a friend and she would sneak me into the cinema to see these things. So it was all the sort of Nightmare on Elm Streets and Hellraiser.
I've never seen those. I think they're not for me. So
I mean,
yeah.
The thing is, like, young 14-year-old James had no problem with watching the most violent and gross horror movies imaginable.
James, 41-year-old Tony can barely read the Wikipedia description to a Saw movie. So that's where I am.
I think the thing is, like, as you get older, particularly as you realize your mortality, these things are less appealing because you're like, that person had their hand chopped off. That's gonna be really difficult for their career going forward.
To remember. I think I was relatively young, like maybe 11, when I remember my parents made a big deal about letting us watch an R-rated movie at home. But the R-rated movie that we were allowed to watch was a comedy, and it was My Cousin Vinny, which is a delightful classic comedy. It's got some swearing in it. I think I saw it recently, and there's like one scene that has like there's basically a joke about sexual assault that I think just I did not comprehend as whatever age I was at. But it's mainly just comedy, and it's a comedy about lawyers. And it's also even kind of this like movie where there's no bad guy. There's kind of just like a misunderstanding about stuff. And like, Joe Pesci plays basically this like New York lawyer who's kind of at odds with the small town judge that is his cousin is going to go to jail for murder, but due to a misunderstanding. But the judge is not evil. The judge is not corrupt. The judge just doesn't like his antics, right? And it's kind of, I don't know. I kind of love it as a movie, but it's maybe if you were an adolescent being like, ooh, I get to see an R-rated movie, you might be disappointed with My Cousin Vinny. So
I saw,
yeah,
I think it was Trading Places at probably like 11 or something, which is a funny movie, although I haven't revisited it for a while.
I think it has some things that have not aged well in it, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, this is why I'm like couching my language, because if I haven't watched it in the last 5 years, I probably rewatch it and go, oh no.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's about manipulating the stock market, which is clearly a thing that 11 and 12-year-olds love.
They love the futures market.
But there, I think also rather unexpectedly, Jamie Lee Curtis takes her top off at one point in that movie, and I think that was definitely a surprise to probably my parents and me.
Yep. I'm trying to think. I was such a Boy Scout, literally. I did not sneak into movies or get snuck into movies, with I think basically one exception, is that a friend, and when we say snuck into, it's, somebody went and bought tickets. And we did not sneak in, but we did not, an older presenting person went and got the tickets for everybody else who would not have presented as older. But the movie that we snuck into as 14-year-olds to see was train spotting with future Star Wars Ewan McGregor, which I haven't done heroin since. It was a very formative movie about how not awesome heroin is. um,
the scene where he climbs out of a particularly filthy
Yes.
toilet was filmed in my
In-
mother's workplace.
oh no.
So was it subtitled when you saw it?
No, I don't think so.
Because I believe certainly this was a common belief over here that the Americans subtitled Train Spotting because
No,
the accents were impenetrable.
I will say I don't know, and I would have watched it here with captions because some of the characters do have very thick accents, but I don't think so. I think they were just characters that you couldn't understand, because some of the characters are, yeah.
Yeah.
So you're telling me all that's comprehensible to you?
I would say so. I mean, like this actually came up earlier in a podcast I was recording. We were talking about Merida from Brave.
Yes.
And the scene in Wreck-It Ralph 2 where she's with the other Disney princesses and she goes into a long spiel and nobody understands what she's saying, and that's the joke. And it's like, yeah, I understand every word she's saying because
you're telling me that Scottish people understand each other. I thought it was tragic that you yeah.
But also Kelly MacDonald, who played Merida, also in Train Spotting. So.
Yes. No, she's in a bunch of stuff. I always think of her as she's in oh my god, with Steve Buscemi, Boardwalk Empire. She's a main character in Boardwalk Empire, though I think she might be playing an Irish character in that one, if I remember correctly. But yeah.
Well, we're mostly interchangeable.
Yeah. Is she one of your national treasures?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. She's been in a bunch of things, but oh yeah, she was in the Harry Potter movies and other things. Yes, I am not currently playing the wizard game that many people are playing because for obvious reasons. I just hate wizards.
I'll teach them. Let's see.
Yes, I am playing The Witcher 3 because it got a remaster for the PS5.
I've never actually played any of the Witchers. I downloaded a year or two back the original Witcher, and it was like, this is not actually kind of playable by modern standards, or at least not on my system.
I played The Witcher 3 first, and then I went back and played some of Witcher 2 and was like, no, this is not for me. But
that is another one where it's like, I watched the show, I enjoy the show.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No,
are you playing that on a console or on a PC?
Console. Because I typically have Macs as my computers, which are historically pretty useless for games.
Are you allowed to say that?
I don't work for Apple anymore.
They have that one Resident Evil games, James.
Well, I believe the writing in that is exquisite.
Reference acknowledged.
But no, so I typically would have my Mac and I would have had a PlayStation or an Xbox or some description over the last years. So yeah, playing it on the PS5. Of course, as with my eyesight continuing to worsen,
yes,
I am now rationing myself to half-hour segments of playing, which is not the most ideal way to play a sprawling role-playing game with hundreds of hours. But that's what we do. And I believe I have a PlayStation VR 2 that is turning up in the next couple of weeks. And I look forward to seeing if it's easier wearing a headset than it is staring at a television.
I don't think so.
I mean, like conceptually, yes, you are strapping two very bright televisions directly to your eyes. That seems like it would be bad. But on the other hand, like if I'm outside, I don't have any problems with my eyes. And you're effectively outside when you're in VR.
I think you're bringing the outside to a glowing screen that's right. I don't know. I'm not an eye doctor, James. I don't know if you consulted an eye doctor about this, but
I
best,
didn't bring it up.
yeah, you did not consult an eye doctor. So
But you know, the other thing with VR games is they are also typically very short, of the order of
True.
a few hours. So that seems far more manageable than actually playing stupid like I got the DLC for The Witcher because I played The Witcher 3 before, and there was 2 DLCs, and one of the DLCs alone is like 40 hours. And it's like, that is a game. That is a whole game. That is a long game. It was very good, but
well, I did 2 bags, James. I think I'm done. I added kind of a top level to this building, and I'm clearly starting on this other building here that I'm looking forward to. It's going to have a little water wheel. I assume it's going to connect on. I mean, I assume it connects onto the side. I don't know which. I'm sure I could look at the box and know, but I'm not sure which side of this box of this structure it's going to build onto. But it looks like we got water wheel's going to go here. I think there's going to be a little mill grinding thing here, and I have a barrel of bread over here as we commonly store our baguettes by the barrel. So yeah,
a very large baguette related
yeah,
to the
it
size
is.
of a
It is.
minifigure.
It does appear to be one of those classic, 5-foot baguettes. As you know, you buy it. It goes from your foot to your neck. So it's
But that's what they sell in Subway, isn't it?
Yes,
the
that is.
5-foot sandwiches.
Yeah, give me a minifig, like I said, a baguette sandwich. So yeah. So
Well,
I think I'm gonna wrap up here. I hope thanks. There's a couple people watching. So I hope you enjoy some mellow Lego building and or James and Tony chatting. I'll remind you, if you don't, or / tell you if you don't know, if you feel like throwing a couple bucks my way, you can go to givetonymoney.fun. The lovable Micah Sargent set that up to either send me some money for coffee, or you can actually, there's a link there. You can even specify a Lego set that I should build by putting money up for it. But no pressure. And I'll probably be doing a couple more of these because I got a lot of free time these days. Yeah, so Legos.
And a lot of bags to get
a lot
through.
of bags to get through. So thank you for watching. I hope people are having an enjoyable Sunday, or whenever you're watching this. If you're gonna watch football later, I hope only your team wins. Yeah, James, any closing messages?
I hadn't prepared any closing.
Neither had I. So that's the secret.
I mean, like I'm selling t-shirts. That's what I can say. I've now got a merch store.
A peak. Where is that merch store, James?
If you go to peakout.com and scroll to the bottom, there is an outdated piece of text that tells you can buy badges. But if you click on that, it'll actually let you buy t-shirts.
Who's in charge of updating your website, James?
That would be me. I haven't done it yet.
Yep, get on that.
The plan is I was going to make it live tomorrow, and I will update the website before then. Anyway, this is the Cotton Bureau print on demand stuff, so you can have as many designs as you like. So I went slightly overboard, and there are
you have a lot of variations on the 42 logo.
There are 21 separate different t-shirts that you can buy.
Don't collect them all unless you really want to.
I mean,
do whatever you want, but
I mean, you're giving more money to Cotton Bureau than you are to me, but
yeah. But Cotton Bureau does. I will say, I have a lot of Cotton Bureau shirts. They're very. I'm wearing a Cotton Bureau shirt right now. This was not planned, but I wear a lot of them.
They're pretty nice. Stream t-shirts. Brought to you by
not actually
Cotton Bureau.
Yeah, but they are very nice shirts. And there's a variety of people we know and love make shirts with Cotton Bureau shirts. So, yeah, you get yourself something cool there. All right.
Yes.
Well, I think that's all for today. Thanks for watching. Goodbye, nerds.
Until next time.